Hey, it's Vina. If you haven't listened to episode 1 and 2, go check them out before this one. It will give you some background info that might be useful for this episode. This one gets a little bit more technical, but me and Tim will try our best to explain it to you in a way that everyone can hopefully understand. This is your usual reminder that botting is illegal. Do not bot in Final Fantasy XIV. You can get banned. Let's start the show. Final Fantasy XIV is a game with a lot of goals and achievements that you can work on. You can work on leveling different classes. You can farm extreme trials for mount. You can work on your crafters and gatherers. You can make relic weapons. You can farm for titles and achievements. There's a lot of farming involved. What if we just automate it? What if we just set up a bot that can do the farming, the grinding, just do the annoying part for us? We learned from previous episodes that it's possible for these bots to gather and craft for us. What about more complicated recipes? What about battling? Can a bot just play the game for you? What I didn't know until I started looking into the story was the amount of Discord servers that exist for botting in Final Fantasy XIV. Every bot service has a different Discord server, or 2, or 3. Every add-on, yes, there are add-ons to bots. Every add-ons would have their own Discord servers, and some bots or add-on authors would also have their own Discord servers, where they collab together on writing code or answer questions to the users. So I joined all of them, or at least as many as I can find. I would then spend my days reading through the chats, some dead, some active, trying to find who's behind all of this. Who are the programmers? Is there somebody who wrote these bots or add-ons that I can talk to? So I did the very same thing of just messaging every server owner or like any person who looks important, and in the hopes that, someone would respond to me. And someone actually did reply. He wasn't interested in talking too much, but he knows someone who might be. These are the different communities of Final Fantasy XIV. Amphina Braveheart. This is Tales from PF.
My name's Tim. I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV off and on since 1.0. I was really excited for it. I've been a big fan of Final Fantasy games in general, just all my life, growing up playing them. My day job is a programmer. I work in the data world, doing a lot of stuff with the cloud and migrating people from on-prem into the cloud. So from the botting perspective, I've been in the botting scene for 8 to 10 years now. Got started working on some Final Fantasy XIV botting, then did a little bit of WoW, then went back to Final Fantasy, so...
Tim is also a husband and a father of 2 little kids.
My littlest one just turned 4, and she is a handful, and then my oldest is 6, he is a handful, so...
Aww. So, what language do Final Fantasy XIV bots run on? Is it C#? Is it Java? Is it JavaScript? Is it Lua?
And so it depends on which bot you're running. So there's 2 main Final Fantasy bots. There's MMO Minion, and then there is RebornBuddy. So it's part of the buddy bots. So if you are going to write stuff for MMO Minion, then you're mainly going to be writing in Lua. And then if you're writing anything for the RebornBuddy, then you're going to be writing in C#.
There are a lot of different bots on the Final Fantasy XIV bot market, free and paid. The paid bots can be on a one-time purchase model or a subscription-based model. For the continued support and updating of the bot, you can pay the developers a monthly fee or a per session price where you can use the bot on like a single device. But the 2 most prominent ones for Final Fantasy XIV are MMO Minion and RebornBuddy. These bots, in turn, would have a lot of third-party developers who created extra add-ons and forks, each doing their own specific thing, like crafting, or gathering, and even fighting. Tim co-authored Magitek, an ACR add-on for RebornBuddy. Can you tell us what an ACR is?
Sure. So an ACR stands for Automatic Combat Routine. And so basically it is programmatically going to do your rotation for you. So your DPS rotation or your tanking rotation or your healing rotation. And they have been basically put into a spot where, it can react to things faster than a human's going to be able to. And it can also, it's going to run the logic that you program for it always. So it will make those decisions and it will always run the same things every time. So you get a lot more consistency compared to just playing manually.
What? A bot that does your rotation for you and can react faster than you probably can? This sounds almost too good to be true. And highly illegal. Do people use Magitek to fight mobs in the open world? Do they do dungeons with it? Do they raid with it?
Yeah, I would say all of that. Yeah, you can set up Magitek, and so Magitek, from a botting perspective, doesn't run by itself. So it is just the combat routine that's going to go through and do whatever your combat rotation is. But it needs to be used with something else to actually have it automate something for you in the game. So there is, in the RebornBuddy side of the world, there is the idea of bot bases. And a bot base is basically what is going to be like the main application that is going through and doing something. So, for instance, there's a bot base out there called Lizbeth, and that will handle doing crafting and gathering for you. And part of that is when you go to craft, it needs to, sometimes it needs to go kill mobs for the crafting materials. So it will hook into a combat routine, and the combat routine will take care of the actual rotation to go through and kill the mob for you. But it's the bot base that's running that actually is handling logic for taking you to the mob and initiating combat with that mob and then moving on once it's collected all of its materials, and then being able to say, okay, I don't need to farm this anymore. I'm going to move on to whatever the next step in the process is.
So, you would tell Lizbeth that you need to craft some tinctures of dexterity. Lizbeth would figure out that you may need some underground spring water, some light gibera, and some cubis flesh. There's no cubis flesh in your inventory. It would then fly to an area with plenty of cubis and tells Magitek to start engage in combat with the monster. Magitek fights the cubis, it drops some cubis flesh, and hands control back to Lizbeth, who goes back to crafting you your tincture of dexterity. Whether or not it was an enjoyable part of your day, Magitek and Lizbeth wouldn't care, because they're just bots and will do this as many times as you tell it to. Do people use Magitek for farming? Or for actual dungeons, raidings, and things like that?
Really, you can pretty much do anything. I mean, if you can write the code for it, then it can execute it. As far as limits go, I mean, there's performance limits, like you're programmatically writing something. So it's going to follow the behavior that you have coded always, right? So it has limitations as far as being able to react to things on the fly. And there's limitations, but it's not impossible either. It's just a matter of you have to program for all of that. So when you're doing a DPS rotation, so if I'm going to write a rotation for, let's say, a machinist, right? The machinist rotation is fairly static. You're doing the entire thing and it's doing the same thing And really the only kind of changes are like when you're going to pop your cooldowns to line up with your groups, or when you're going to hold your cooldowns because you're fighting a boss and you know that that boss is about to go into like an invuln stage, or it's about to, pop into like one of the FMVs or something else. So you don't want to pop a 2-minute cooldown that's going to be wasted because you're going into a cutscene for it.
Does this mean that you have to customize and write code for every fight? Because each fight would have a different timeline and a different cooldown usage.
In Magitek, there's not a lot of things that you can do automatically for that, where I can't program that because I don't want to have to know about every single boss fight in the game, right? That's still not an impossibility, because what we do is we can build in toggles to be able to turn using cooldowns off. So then, even though you're using an automated combat routine, if you are somebody who's trying to push the highest content or push for, parse runs, you're still going to have some level of involvement in your combat routine and how it's going, because you're going to be flipping toggles to turn things off or turn them back on throughout the fights.
Does the machine control your movement? Does the bot control your movement as well during this, or do you have to WASD yourself?
Yeah, so from a rating perspective, you have to control your movement. There's nothing out there as far as the bots go that is going to be able to completely automate a savage raid where you can just let it go and it's going to do all of the mechanics and everything else for you. You still have to do your WSAD to be able to move around, be able to do the mechanics. You still have to face the right way. You still have to stand in the right spots for it. Like, there's nothing that automates that side of it for you. It's just going to automate the actual rotation that you're using and when to use abilities.
What kind of support do you get from RebornBuddy for writing add-ons for the bot? I understand that RebornBuddy has a subscription service, so do you guys get a cut of that? Or is there like a third-party store where they can buy your add-on to use along with RebornBuddy?
One of the reasons why both myself and Mortem, who co-authored Magitek with me, kind of got out of the scene is our real lives got busy. But the support in MMO Minion is a lot better that you get from like the actual devs who are writing the bot. It's a lot better in MMO Minion. And there have been a lot more breakthroughs and things being implemented there than in RebornBuddy. So like from a rating perspective, if you're using the combat routines from MMO Minion, they also have the ability to telegraph the different abilities for you in some of them. So like if you're doing a Savage Raid, or like if you're doing E9S, where there's a lot of things going on the ground that in normal, if you're not using a bot, you just have to know where things are at, because not all of the mechanics are telegraphed. And they do have the ability in some of their stuff now to be able to telegraph a lot of those mechanics, so you can see where you can stand. Some abilities or boss abilities, the telegraphs are actually not sent down to the client, and they're kept up on Square Enix's servers. And things like that, there's nothing anyone can do. We don't have access to it. But if the telegraph is being pushed down to the end user's client, then there's a pretty good chance that we can be able to figure out that code and then do the math to figure out the right cones and whatnot to show that telegraph of what it's going to do and where it's going to be.
Telegraphs? I feel like I've heard about this before. On January 16, 2020, Aya Liz of FFLogs posted 2 tweets on their Twitter about a leak on the Balance, the prominent Savage raiding Discord for the English-speaking community. In it, you can see that the player, S. Rodham, can see AoEs you are not supposed to be able to see in a very difficult mechanic of T, the Epic of Alexander. Multiple users commented on the matter, and a name kept popping up: Nini Technology. Nini Technology seems to be a Chinese team that produces TTS, text-to-speech, and trigonometry support, which are basically automated voiced call-outs that calls out mechanics as they are happening or about to happen to you. This is something a little bit controversial and often used in the raiding scene. Whether or not this means that MMO Minion ended up working along with Nini technology to package it, we will never know. If MMO Minion has so much support, can you go more into how much support do you guys get from RebornBuddy? I understand that RebornBuddy has a subscription service, so do you guys get a cut of that? Or is there like a third-party store where they can buy your add-on to use along with RebornBuddy?
RebornBuddy has been part of the Buddy bot. So Bossland is like the main company. They're a company based out of Germany, and they did a lot of different bots. So like they did Honor Buddy for World of Warcraft. They've done Reborn Buddy. They have Demon Buddy that was for Diablo 4, and they had a bunch of different bots going out there. But they have been, the way that like their systems work, it's not like a unified group of developers that are running it where everybody's working on all of the bots, or they have teams of people working on the different bots that they have. So typically you get one person who has written a bot, and then they bring that to Bossland to kind of go into the fold to be able to kind of get the marketing and the user base and everything else. So they kind of go under that Buddy brand, but then it's still the original maintainer. So for RebornBuddy, there's one developer that still maintains that bot, and that is it. And that guy has had, I know he's had like health issues, but he's just been busy. And, it's hard for one person to update a massive program like the bot. So for RebornBuddy, in the botting community, whenever there's a new expansion coming out, the joke is always, well, is this going to be the expansion where, the developer doesn't update it and RebornBuddy just dies and goes away now? Because we never know. Like whenever there's a new expansion, there's everything gets changed and there's a lot of rework that has to be done for it. Compare that to MMO Minion. MMO Minion has a larger group of people working on their bots, and they're working together on it, and it's just better supported and a better supported platform.
In 2017, Blizzard Entertainment sued Bossland for 42,818 copyright violations for bypassing the anti-cheat technology. Bossland failed to show up at the California District Court trial, and the court ruled that Bossland owed Blizzard $8.5 million in punitive damage. Today, it seems like Bossland still exists. According to URS, Germany's business register system, the company claimed that its total assets is roughly $760,000 for the 2018 fiscal year. In 2019, its total asset went up to $957,000.
For RebornBuddy, they have never opened a store. So as a developer for RebornBuddy, you don't have a built-in way to be able to partner with them and make money off of what you're building. So if you want to make money off of it, you either have to open up your own shop and sell your things and do it all on your own, or you have to hope that people will donate to you or whatnot, and you just basically have to give it away. They don't facilitate third-party developers making money on the platform. There's the forums for RebornBuddy, and basically if you're selling your stuff, you can't advertise it on their forums. And that's been about as far as they've gone for it.
The lack of support from Bossland and real life would get in the way, and eventually, Tim and Ex-Mortem decided that it wasn't worth it to keep updating the bot. Today, Magitek is an open source program and available on GitHub for anyone to request and edit for themselves.
I know that Ex-Mortem and I both, we were never really trying to get rich off of making bot programs. This was definitely both just a hobby for the both of us. And we started selling our things just to be able to help pay for it, be able to help incentivize us to keep coming back and keep updating things and adding more features. But just as life got busy, it just wasn't really worth it anymore to go through and do that. So we ended up just kind of shutting that side of it down.
Tim admitted that he's been using more of MMO Minion's tooling than RebornBuddy's tooling for a while now.
It sounds crazy, but there's not a whole lot that you can't do with bots right now already. I mean, how sophisticated they have become with everything. So, I mean, the Lisbeth thing for RebornBuddy, that bot base is absolutely insane. You can use that bot base and then you can use profiles to basically automate your crafting and gathers. And I know I've personally used it to level all of my crafting and gatherers from 0 to 80. And it did it in about a week to a week and a half. And it was just automated. Like I would set the thing and it would just go. And then I would come back a couple hours later and tell it to the next thing and tell it to just go. Within a few weeks, Lisbeth has been updated enough. Like you don't have to do anything. It will just, you tell it what you want and it basically checks to make sure that you have enough control and CP, and then it will just guarantee high quality on every craft out there. There's also, you can level from 1 to max level, like entirely automated. There are profiles out there that will do the main storyline for you. It'll do all of the main storyline questing, and it'll do all the quests. The only manual integration you have to do with it is when it has to do dungeons. You have to do the dungeon yourself when it gets into it. But for the rest of it, it will automate 95% of it. Like maybe there's a few quests here and there where you have to step in and do something, but for the majority of it, all of the questing in the game is completely automatable through the botting. If you already have a max character and you're trying to level your alt and get all of the rest of your classes, there are bots out there that will do deep dungeon for you. So just turn it on and it will run Palace of the Dead for you. And you can just tell it to run floors 1 through 10 over and over and over again. It'll exit after floor 10 and then reset it and start back over and start another run. And it'll do that for you. And at that point, it does control all of your movement, all of your combat. Like it does everything for you. And then from there, there's another automation where they will do the trusts, the trust dungeons. They have automated pretty much all of the trust dungeons.
Wow, that's actually really scary how sophisticated they are.
Yeah, it really is. It's scary.
Do people use these ACRs to do savage fights and parse with them?
I can say without a shadow of a doubt, it is easy to get top parses using the combat rotations in Savages. I have seen many people get rank 99 in FF logs using a combat rotation.
Can you explain to us how RebornBuddy works? Like, how is it doing all these things to the game?
For RebornBuddy, everything is done through memory injection. The bot is actually reading the memory on your computer, and then they've figured out where they can go and actually inject different values into the memory that then make the application think that you pressed a button on your computer. And that is like the high level of how the RebornBuddy stuff works.
And lots of other games have plenty of anti-cheat measures in places, like Punkbuster, like Sentinels, like GameGuard.
They have a lot of, I think it's Sentinel, that's like basically running on your machine and doing detection. And those things are looking to try and tell when memory is being altered by something outside of the process. Then they're also just looking for names of processes being run. And it gets kind of scary for how the anti-botting and the anti-cheating software in general and how intrusive it is to like seeing what is running on your machine. Because they're looking at everything and they're looking at a lot. So like I can tell you specifically, if you are ever running or if you're playing the game League of Legends, right? Very big popular game. If you happen to be playing League of Legends and then you go through and open like as another process Cheat Engine, which is just another like memory reading application, League of Legends will immediately shut itself down. Like you can be in the middle of the game, it'll just close the entire application.
So what does Square Enix does about this issue, and why do you think they decide to adopt this policy?
It's an ongoing battle, right? How can people bypass it, and then how can companies try and detect it? And to be honest, with Square Enix, they don't really try. Pretty much as long as you are not doing something that is directly affecting other players or is just absolutely like obvious. I actually like the way Square Enix handles it, because they basically say, if you're not directly affecting somebody else, or if you're not being, extremely obvious about it, then they don't necessarily see it as harming the community. Is kind of how I feel that they think about it. I don't necessarily think it is as big of a deal in Final Fantasy, because I also feel like Square Enix, instead of putting all of that effort into anti-cheat or anti-botting, they put that effort into the game, into the content for the game. If you compare it to World of Warcraft, for example, World of Warcraft launched an expansion in November of last year, and their first major content patch isn't releasing until another week or so from now on June 29th.
I asked how Tim feels when he uses RebornBuddy and MMO Minion to play.
I mean, you have like the positive, you have the negative, and I feel like I sit somewhere in the middle on that. There are certain times where there's certain classes that I like to play by hand. I like playing healers by hand. I don't typically want to use a combat rotation for healers, just because I enjoy that and I want to play that. But then if the group I'm in, we get an area where somebody else, the only class that they can play is a healer, and what we really need is a DPS class, I have confidence that I can switch over to whatever DPS class that is, and the bot's going to play that at a competent level, even if I'm not, and we can still go on and enjoy the raid together. So like things like that, like I'm just going with my friends, and I'm not caring about whether or not I hit a top parse or if I hit a low parse. Like I'm just out there to enjoy having a good raid time with my group of friends, and that's all we care about it. And if that helps our group clear, savage content, because either me or somebody else in the group is able to switch to a class that we don't normally play, but we know that the bot can play it at a proficient level, I don't have anything I don't see anything ethically wrong with that either.
Are you still friends with Ex Mortem to this day? Did you met anyone else who was also doing this? Did you guys become friends?
Yeah. So Ex Mortem and I have become really great friends, even just outside of Final Fantasy and outside of botting. We still hang out most nights, and we play all kinds of video games together and whatnot. So he's become a very good friend of mine. But just throughout this community, there have been a lot of people that have stepped in, that have come and go, contributed. Like Magitek is first and foremost mainly done by Ex Mortem. I've been more in the background of Magitek, helping do a lot of like implementing different systems and things for it. But we've also had a lot of different developers over the years come in and come out for it, where maybe they were active for an expansion and they came in and they made some changes and they did some development work on it as well. We've had many people come in and out like that to be able to work on that. So we've definitely met a good amount of people through it.
This has been such an interesting conversation to have, because for me, I've always thought that botting is something that I'd never do, that it's bad, and I've never really thought about why people would do it, and also all the work that would go into making bots in first place.
So I think it's about the people, and it's about how you use it, right? Because I've also gone through and I've heard many stories of people that the bot is the only way that they can play, that they'll have really bad carpal tunnel and they just can't do the movements fast enough for a rotation, and they can't ever go and play Savage content with their group of friends without the bot, because it allows them, because they just medically, physically can't do it without it. So when I see stuff like that, it's kind of like, do I have an ethical problem with that? Not at all. I've seen many different people throughout the years, like, thanking us, thanking, the developers that are writing these things for writing it, and telling us how it's allowed them to enjoy the game after they just couldn't anymore from it. So I've definitely seen that.
How does it make you feel when you see those messages?
Oh, that's like the best thing in the world, right? Like, I only got involved with this stuff truly, like, just for fun, right? Like, I've never really been like, okay, we need to make a business out of this, and this is how I'm going to become a millionaire and retire off of this, right? So just going through and being able to, like, have something that you're doing just for fun, but then be able to see that impact on others and see how that can, like, lift them and enable them to go do something that they couldn't do before. Like, I mean, that's amazing. That's just a great feeling.
This episode was sponsored by MMO Minion. No, I'm just kidding. There are no sponsors. I reached out to Karsten Stefan, the head of MMO Minion and sole employee of Raving Lunatic Software. But so far, I haven't got any response. I'll keep you guys updated. Karsten, if you're out there and want to reach out to me, my Twitter's always open. Thank you to everyone who replied to me and all the friends who gave me thoughtful advices and comments throughout the whole process. Sound mastering is done by Liam. Thank you to you who listened until the end. Special thanks to Tim for appearing on this episode. This show is made by me, the level 80 scholar who doesn't have Summoner unlocked, Fina Braveheart. Music is provided by Eric Matias of soundimage.org. Ixa Iliad is there for you in your darkest hour, in the blackest night. Take care and have a safe journey.